Hi, I'm Allison Fujito, and today we're talking about Rode Caprice number 8 in F sharp minor. As with all the caprices, and really anything you practice, it boils down to left-hand challenges, right-hand challenges, the challenges of coordinating left hand and right hand together, and then there's the whole issue of playing it musically. And people have different definitions of musically, but in general, you want to play it in a way that makes people want to listen or even feel like they can't help but listen. Let's start with left-hand challenges. It's not enough, I think, to just get your fingers to the right place in time to play their notes, because doing that still allows for you to have the awkwardness of which the problem there is it's so easy to pop your finger up high once you're finished with a note to get it out of the way, and that's unnecessary energy, and it also results in very unnecessary energy for the next note, because once you pop your finger up high, you have to slam it back down for the next note to get it there on time. So one way to pre-address that as you're learning this piece is to play pairs of notes as double stops. You see how that gets your fingers there, some of them on the second note of each pair, it gets your finger there before it has to be there. And it also keeps your fingers, it helps you keep your fingers relatively close to the strings, and which is what you want. You don't want to expend more energy than you need. Hello, Charlotte. I have a dog down here who is asking for treats, and this is not the right time for a treat. Can you go somewhere else? Scoot, go. You can hear her toenails clicking across the room. Never a dull moment. So there's the double stops. Keep your fingers, as you practice the double stops, check with open strings to make sure you're in tune, check with a tuner if necessary. Keep your fingers very light. You do not have to press your fingers all the way to the fingerboard. For this kind of practicing, you also want to keep your bow very light. You don't want to slam in fortissimo, because if you're pushing with your right hand, you're probably going to push with your left hand, and that's the last thing you want to do. Once you get the double stop slowly in tune, and then your fingers are relatively accustomed to being in the right place at the right time, then we can worry about the bow coordination. And what we want is, we want steady rhythm. We don't want any more travel from string to string than we need. We tend to have this instinct that it's very far to get from the E string to the A string, and we move more than we need to. Figure out the minimum distance you need to move between strings without hitting both of them. To get it steady and even, obviously you can start with a metronome. You can start at half tempo or even a quarter tempo with the metronome. Playing lightly, again, you don't want to use more bow at half tempo than you're going to use at target tempo, or as I sometimes like to say, as you'll use in real life, meaning target tempo. You can also do a number of variations that can keep you from getting bored out of your mind. You can add 2 slurred notes to each group of 6 here. You can start out and you'll notice that each up bow is going to feel very awkward, because it changes the muscles that you're using from when you started down bow. And then you can make the second and third notes the slur. And the third and fourth notes. And the fifth and sixth notes. Did I skip one? You can also try the entire thing starting up bow. That's probably going to feel horrible because, again, you're using different muscles than you practice starting it all down bow. But it also can help you be really aware of how little bow you need for a string crossing. Once you've done that, you can practice in rhythms. Notice I took a long time between each group of 2 notes. It's not so helpful to practice because the point of doing this rhythm is you want to worry only about 2 notes at a time, and you want to use that time, that space beforehand, to get those 2 notes as easy and effortless as possible. So use that time to plan, how far do I need to go to the A string, and I have to go right back to the E string in a couple of notes. Use that time to plan, and once you feel comfortable with that, you can reverse it. I wouldn't practice both pages or even an entire page with all these rhythms at once. Perhaps 2 lines. Perhaps even start with just 1 measure and see if you can get that 1 measure really comfortable with all the rhythms. You can also do combinations of 16ths and 8th notes. You can also take your time between those pairs too. And then reverse it. Oh, you could also do the Amsterdam rhythm. And keep those rhythms as slow as you need to control them. Once you've done all the rhythms, then you can start doing it straight with the metronome as written, half tempo, quarter tempo, whatever tempo you feel you can comfortably play. And then move your metronome up by 5 beats per minute, 10 beats per minute, not more than that. You want to move your metronome up so that at a small enough increment that you feel like, or so that you don't feel like it's a big change. I wanted to suggest some alternate fingerings for people who, for some of the fingerings I've got in my edition, I've got the international edition edited by Galamian, which has some excellent fingerings. And by the way, if you haven't measured or numbered your measures, if you haven't numbered your measures, you might want to put a pause on this video and go number your measures. This is actually a fairly short caprice. I think I've only got 37 measures if I counted correctly. So measure 17, you're starting in 4th position, and he has you stay there and extend the 4. Your hand is still in 4th position. Your 4th finger is extending to 5th. You could, if that's very awkward for people with midget 4th fingers, and some of us have very short 4th fingers, you could shift to 5th position. And then extend your 1st finger back. Now, this fingering and also the fingering Galamian gives you, at the end of the 2nd beat, both those fingerings give you 1st finger as the last note of the 2nd beat, followed by a shift to 1st finger on the D string. So you're crossing strings and shifting a position with the same finger. And that's actually doable. You're not going to be playing super legato, so you have time to make that shift and that cross. But if you're not comfortable with it, you can shift to third position, and that puts you in right where you need to be, and you don't have to shift. Same thing in the next measure. You could even, that's measure 18. You can kind of sneak shift from the F sharp where you're in second position. You put extend your second finger up, and then your hand kind of catches up, and then you're in third position already. At the end of that measure, you can stay in first position as Galamian has marked. And then he has you kind of in half position, or first position, if you think of it as a C natural. But if that's difficult for your fourth finger, then at the end of measure 18, you can shift in the open A string to second position on the G sharp, and then finger the next two notes, first two notes of measure 19, with 2 and 3 instead of 3 and 4, because you're already in that position. It's weird in my edition, maybe they corrected it in later versions. Measure 21 and measure 19 are exactly the same, but for some reason in my edition, measure 21, the first two notes are fingered 2-4, which just does not make sense. It was fingered 3-4 in measure 19. And I thought, you can do an alternate fingering of 2-3, but 2-4 does not make sense to me. So if you've got that, change it to either 2-4 or 3-4. Let's see, measure 24. He's got you in first position in my edition, and then extend the fourth finger. You might want to shift. Shift to second position during the open A, so you land on the C sharp with your first finger, and you can stay there until the last beat. You can shift down to first position on the F sharp. And measure 31, Galamian has you extend the fourth finger again if this is uncomfortable. You can shift on the downbeat there to the first finger, to second position. The last note of 30 is a B sharp, I believe, so it's a half step shift. That's a lot easier to get in tune for people with small hands and short fourth fingers. You can even shift on every F sharp in measure 31 so that you're solidly in second position. And then back to first. Oops, I'm sorry, that's B sharp. I looked in the middle measure and didn't look at the sharps in the first beat. So you can do that, but you don't have to. If you've got a really easy fourth finger extension, you can stay in first position and just extend your fourth finger up. Measure 32, you can stay in first position, extend your fourth finger up, or you can you can essentially stay in second position and extend your first finger back for the B sharp. So your first finger goes back and forth between the C sharp and the B sharp, or first position and your fourth finger extends up for each F sharp. And I think that's it for the alternate fingerings that I was going to suggest. In terms of musicality, this F sharp minor, the way he's got it written, it sounds particularly ominous, like something spooky, serious, troubling, disturbing. Something's going to happen. and each chord change that we get, it just gets more intense, which is kind of cool. He's got a couple of sforzandos thrown in. I see there's one at the end of measure 23. There are accents. Try and bring those out. There are did I say there are forte pianos? There are forte pianos in measure 6 and 8. There's some crescendos. And what's actually unusual for many of these caprices, it ends piano. So if you look at measure 36, there's a piano, and you can, starting 34, you can diminuendo into that piano, or you could do it a subito piano, but that sort of, it's neat. I think it continues the feeling of unrest. I love these Rode Caprices. I hope you love them as much as I do, and happy practicing.